Hey guys, Nick here. Now today we're going to be talking about the 2026 Honda CRF150R. Now we're going to go on a tour around this bike and talk about it, but we're also going to talk about some more pressing matters on this model, which is Honda is discontinuing it from their lineup. So it's believed that this is your last chance to pick up one of these bikes. Now this right here is the Expert version. They do make a standard normal 150R, which is just basically a smaller wheel size than the Expert. Now in regards of pricing, we'll get this done with right away. The normal 150R is $54.99 and into the Expert is $200 more at $56.99. Now both of these share a $300 destination charge, and any dealer is probably going to hit you with a little bit of a setup fee of a couple $100. Now if you go through a good reputable dealer, you can use my Honda dealer, which is Jaff Motors in Scotia Glenville, New York, and they'll hook you up on a good fair price on any Honda CRF model. Now this is their very last 150R. By the time this video is published, I would not be surprised if this bike is already sold and left. So we're not going to start it up today. We're just going to talk a lot about it, and we're going to go on a tour around the 150R. So with pricing and that all being said, let's get started. So let's first talk about that discontinuation thing and why that actually is quite the possibility and why that is happening. Let's talk about what has and hasn't changed. This bike really hasn't seen much of any updates in the last decade or more. Sure, they've done some changes here and there, but they haven't changed it too much. And this bike is still, it is 2026, and this bike is still carbureted as a 4-stroke, and it is kickstart only, no electric start. Which if you go across Honda's other models in their R lineup, none of those bikes are carbureted. They're all fuel injected, and they're all also liquid cooled standard, which this is also liquid cooled, but they're also fuel injected with like different map modes and launch control and all those goodies. So there's a lot of technology in those R models, and they also have, you know, those lithium ion real small high performance batteries, which are like $300. So if Honda were to fuel inject this bike, they would probably go the route of the 250R and the 450R and the Works editions and give them that modern fuel injection, the modes, and a probably pretty expensive $200-300 battery in there, which would outprice this bike out of the market and to other competitive bikes. Now of course in this class there's really not many other options. You're more looking at 80cc 2-strokes to go against in this size, or older Honda CRF 150Rs. So if Honda were to go do that route of putting all their modern equipment on this, we would be talking a pretty substantial price increase to justify the technology and cost Honda would invest into doing that. And also Honda just simply doesn't produce a high volume amount of these units. There's not a huge demand for them. So Honda would be essentially losing money at the end of the day to go and do that. Now, that's my take, my opinion on it from kind of evaluating and seeing where Honda's going and the money they also invest into their other products. I'm not speaking for Honda, but I'm willing to bet those are the leading contributors into their decision. Now, with that being said, this is still a very special and unique bike, and I love it for that. It's very different than their other trail bikes in their trail bike segments, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's talk a little bit about the drivetrain in this bike. It's a 150cc carbureted single-cylinder engine, but it's a real high output engine with a direct push accelerator pump in the carburetor, which helps provide a more immediate throttle response. And that's true for sure. If you go and take your hand on the handlebar and you go rev this bike, it does have that quick revving of a 250 or a 450R. However, off of idle, there can be a little bit of a stumble because of it being carbureted from going off its idle jets into, you know, your primary. And so you do notice that a little bit as you go start to crack it. It's not as smooth and as crisp as a full-size race bike, but for a carbureted engine, for how fast it revs, you would not think that it's carbureted, honestly. It's really well done and tuned. And especially with modern emissions now on these bikes that play a role in how they're tuned from factory, it's still a very impressive setup in that drivetrain. It's got a real sweet sound. Unfortunately, we're not going to be starting it up today. I would love to, but essentially you got to treat this like a race bike. This isn't a CRF125 FB, a big wheel, or a CRF110 step up, or a CRF300F. These are high maintenance motors. They are very sensitive. You got to take care of them. You do have to be a lot more mindful when you run this bike than some of those trail bikes. Those trail bikes you're going to go start year round and throw them in the woods and have a blast. You're not really going to worry about them. Versus a bike like this, you do have to be a little more mindful what fuel you're running in it, how you're running the bike, how hot it's getting, how often you're doing services, what kind of larger service intervals. Do you have to check valves? Are you going to have to do a head to this bike at some point? You know, there's a lot more you have to be in mind of when you buy a CRF150R versus just a standard trail bike. I'd love to ride one of these and open it up and really see how it compares to the CRF300F in their lineup in terms of power. Now, of course, they're two very different bikes and they have two very different drivetrains, which are designed and dedicated to two very different riding styles. This bike is going to be very rev happy. You're going to want to open it up. You're going to want to have some land to open it up, maybe some little jumps. You know, you're going to want to race this bike and have some real fun and ride it hard. The harder you run it, the more fun you're going to have, versus a trail bike like the CRF125 or the 300F. You can run those bikes slow and they'll be happy at a low speed, or if you want to open them up and crack them open in the woods, they're going to move right along and you're going to have fun as well. And those are also going to be a little more easy to your everyday person because those do have modern fuel injection in them, and so they're not just so sensitive as you are with the carbureted bike. So that's a lot of talking about the 150R, some of the pros, some of the cons, what you're looking at, you know. But if you have a son or daughter, you want to get them into racing at a younger age, and you can't fit them on a 250R, then this is the route you're going to go. It is unfortunate that Honda's getting rid of it. I believe they do have other trail bike models which help fill in the gap a little bit, but of course they're not going to be a race bike level of performance like this bike was. So with that being said, let's go on a tour around the bike. Something I love about the 150R is the design of it. It's tall, it's short, and it's small, but yet it's big because of how tall it is. You don't, on the Expert, you do have a larger wheel, but it's still not that large of a wheel when you look at it. You have some real tall suspension, and it's not super slack, it's stubby. Your head tube angle, all of that. And even in the back, it's a little more normal? Or, I don't know. I really don't know how to describe it, but it's just such a unique layout and design. And of course, getting up close, you can see the engine. Lets you know right away, Unicam. You see your carburetor right there. Your logo and your branding all on it. You know, of course, your kickstart's right there. You got to give it a couple kicks to get these started. You do have your oil dipstick right there, or your fill, sorry. And coming around, you do see your radiators right there, and you do have one on the other side as well. The big Honda front plate, fender. I mean, the fender design has the same curve in even your front plate right here as you would have seen 15 years ago. If you look at a new modern CRF 110 dirt bike even, the way they curve it and shape the plastics is very different than they are on here. You even have these little guides and protector. You do have disc brakes front and rear on this bike, which is really sweet. And for what this bike is, you definitely want that. Coming around this way, you do have your oil dipstick right there, your little internal oil cartridge, your carburetor, your pull out for your choke, and then you push it in. And you have, you know, your warm-up procedures on these, your fuel on, off, reserve, all that good stuff. It's right up top. Clutch lever. The one thing I do not know on this bike, which one of you can actually let me know, is what this little lever here is for on the handlebar. I'm not sure what that one is for. First, you got your emergency kill right there. And that's really all there is. There's not much of any electronics on this bike, which is nice. It keeps it old school. It's a traditional dirt bike. There's not a lot going on, just an engine, a carburetor, and the bike. There's no modern electronics, which some people really like. So it's just very, very interesting bike to look at. And of course, to operate and own compared to what there is out there today. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all did enjoy. Maybe you learned something. Be sure to comment and please share your thoughts down below. What you think, what Honda's doing. Do you think Honda's going to replace this bike with a new model? What do you think about Honda doing this? Does it make sense in any means, or are you completely against it? I'm sure many of you, if you're watching this video, are probably going to be against it. I think it would have been awesome if Honda went the route of putting all the modern tech of a new bike on this bike. However, it just would probably price most people out of the market that are going to want to buy this bike for their son or daughter to get them into racing. The price point of these one of these right now is going to put you roughly at $6,000. If they would do all those improvements, I wouldn't be surprised if it would put you close to $7,000, which I think would just price this bike out of the market, unfortunately. But share your thoughts and opinions down below. I'm looking forward to reading your comments and seeing what you guys think. Please share the video, give this video a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.